We are seeing something new out there, and it is taking the people in power by surprise. While many people have been frustrated inwardly, they have been upset and angry. Now we are seeing around the world, we are seeing rage starting to come out. Rage, that uncontrollable anger. Not just an emotion anymore, but now starting to result in actions. And this is changing the world already, and will truly come to define what 2024 will probably look like. We're going to jump into what's going on around the world, what kind of protests, what kind of actions are being taken, and what can we expect going forward. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade, and you guys oftentimes are feeding so much good information out here to us. And in this video, we're going to be talking about what's going on around the world, what kind of actions people are taking, and even kind of what kind of actions we can take as people that this can be guided. This anger can lead us to profitable action, and we need to be thinking strategically. And that's unfortunately something that doesn't often happen. When we see these flashpoints, oftentimes it's very unstrategic. When you look at people like Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr., and you see some of these civil rights movements and such, they were very calculated in what they were attempting to do because they knew that just taking action at random or taking action in ways that feels good may actually be counterproductive to the purposes. So most people don't realize this, but China has been waking up. And I'm not just talking about the government, and I'm not talking about the military that's filling their missiles full of water. And remember, that's just some of the missiles, right? But China as a nation has become less and less happy with what their governing Politburo has to say, what their Politburo is doing. They do not like the direction of the country. When we're having more and more economic crises in the country, people don't have jobs, factories are shutting down, and people are having trouble putting food on the table. Last year in 2023, there were twice as many protests as in previous years. Over 1,700 protests across the country. We're talking about strikes. We're talking about people marching on the streets and saying, yeah, we don't like what the government's doing. And you can just imagine how the Chinese Communist Party has reacted to a lot of these protests. And it's heartbreaking to see the people of China actually believing in their hearts that they're free to protest when they live in a country where they absolutely do not have the rights to protest. They do not understand what happened when people decided to march back in the day with words that we can't even utter here on this communist Chinese-controlled platform of YouTube. You can't talk about the tanks and the people standing in front of the tanks. But the thing is that we're seeing an uprising in China. Now, is it going to overthrow the government there? No. But we see people saying, I'm unhappy with the situation, but now we are going to start taking action. And so we've seen an increase in China of protests. In Germany, just in the last week, we've seen a marked increase of farmers as well as rail workers going and protesting and striking. Rail workers this past week shut down 80% of the trains in Germany. That's kind of a lot. That's cargo as well as passenger trains. 80% of the trains did not run last week because of the rail worker strike. And that was in addition to the hundreds and hundreds of farm vehicles that took over the streets of Berlin and other German cities as farmers took their cue from the Netherlands as well as France, where the French farmers are out there spraying poo all over stuff. Manure. Manure and rotting produce, which that's if you've ever seen if you ever smelled rotting produce, you kind of almost wish that they were flinging the manure. That's just nasty stuff sometimes, right? Slimy, yeah. Anyway, so the French are out there in force protesting. The Germans are out there in force protesting. And underlying both of these protests is this anti-free immigration policies. The movement against just letting everyone into Europe that can get across, and seeing these NGOs, these nonprofit organizations who are spending millions and millions of dollars to load up people in Africa and bring them across on boats, much like what we're seeing here in the United States. If you think that it's not a plan, if you think it's like, oh, well, people just want to go to the United States, and that's just, a whole bunch of them are going all at once. It's just, happenstance. The exact same thing is happening in Europe. And the same nonprofits, the same government-funded shadow government organizations are out there actively making this an issue. They're not just waiting for people to come. They're going out and actively recruiting people and funding them. They're going to places where people are not making decent livings, and then they're offering them money in order to travel for free to the United States and to Europe. And so in Europe, we see people rising up against this. And there's already been a political revolution in the Netherlands. They were the first country we saw the farmers rise up and say, nope, not anymore. And they're such a powerful force in the Netherlands that they were able to not only block what the government was doing, but then they also were able to get their people elected, and they are actually becoming a force in their parliament there in order to kind of shut down what's going on over there. The Germans are politically reacting as well. The conservatives are rapidly gaining power in places in Germany. And while some of you may hear that and start going, well, I don't know how I feel about conservatives gaining power in Germany. But remember, it was the socialists that caused the problems in Germany, all right? And we've had socialists since then, which is concerning to say the least as well. With France, we have not yet seen a real strong movement in the political sphere. Le Pen is not in power. Macron is still in power, and even with the major protests that happened earlier in 2023. But what we're seeing is across the board a movement of people are done quietly seething with anger. They're done with the quiet whispering at the TV, muttering under their breath. People are done with that. They are starting to rise up. And we're seeing in the United States, as the election season gets kicked off here, they're starting to find some people with voices, with Vivek and with Trump standing up and speaking for them. People are feeling more emboldened out there. The deep state has thrown everything they can possibly do, every single charge they could possibly charge Donald Trump with, and yet here he is still standing, still moving to the podium, smiling, winning things like the caucuses in Iowa. How is that possible? How is somebody being charged with so many different things, yet he keeps one after the next? His court victories are lining up one after the next, and yet we're seeing that that people are still trying to hope that he'll be charged with something at some point. And that's not happening. And people are seeing that Trump is not being stopped by this lawfare. He's being attacked by everything and everyone, and yet somehow it's not working. And the people of the United States are looking at that and saying, well, maybe there is hope after all. We've seen them throwing everything at us. You've seen people getting silenced on Facebook, on YouTube, on different platforms. Twitter used to be an absolute nightmare. Now it's kind of we're still kind of waiting to see how that kind of turns out over there on Twitter. but seems optimistic so far. We've seen a lot of people get their voice back on Twitter that had been silenced previously. But I know a lot of you still have concerns about Elon Musk and all that with the people that he hangs out with. But we're seeing a lot of the persecution that came after Trump is now coming after Elon Musk, and that kind of, in my mind, kind of starts saying, you know, maybe he is a bit more of an independent force than people give him credit for. But we'll see. We'll see with those things. But as we have these deep-rooted emotions, is anyone angry? Yeah, I imagine everybody is. Everybody's upset, right? You can't meet anybody nowadays who's like, yeah, I think the government's in a really good place. I think our country is moving in the right direction. When you poll people, do you think that the country is moving in the right direction? The answer is resoundingly no, by everybody. Everybody thinks things are bad. People are angry about all different things. Now, they don't necessarily always agree on what they're angry about. A whole bunch of people in the United States are angry at Trump, and other people are angry that Trump's being persecuted, right? And so you have this spectrum of anger. And like I'm saying, what we're seeing recently and what we're going to see this year is that's going to turn to action. Let's just imagine a perfect world. We get to the end of 2024. We hit November. Everything's fine. Everyone goes to the polls. And then out comes one side's the winner or the other side. Can we say that 40+% of the population of the country is going to be very, very upset? Like, not just screaming at the sky kind of upset, but like really upset. Like about to do something kind of upset. I think that's a picture where we can all go, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, last time Donald Trump got into the White House, we saw the screaming at the sky. We saw the weird hats. We saw the just absolute vulgarity out there. And we saw violence too, didn't we? Do you think it's going to be different this time? Or do you think it's going to be worse? If Donald Trump gets elected, there will be people who lose their minds. They're not going to be like moved to Canada mad. They're going to be like real insurrection type mad. These people have been told how awful Trump is, and they believe it hook, line, and sinker. Are they going to accept an election where he wins? It's kind of a heads I win, tails you lose, right? Type situation where there's no winning. There's no winning. There's just losing, and then like other kind of losing. And we're seeing that around the world with things. As conservatives are starting to take back power in some places, we're seeing that the resistance is actually getting worse and fiercer. The attacks on politicians and the attacks on the population are increasing. This is truly an unstable year, and I've jokingly called it, only half in jest, the worst year ever. 2024 is the worst year ever. And I know that's hyperbole for you folks who are very super literal. But then again, there's potential for this year to truly be the worst year ever, isn't it? If we get into a nuclear war, it will be the worst year ever. There are certain things on the horizon, whether it's a bioweapon being released or whether it's truly World War III breaking out. It very well could be the worst year ever. And that potential is scary. And I think that it is right for us to want to take action to avert the coming crisis. The United States is busy running around the world, sticking its nose into everyone's business, bombing random countries without congressional approval, And I know some of you are like, yeah, those Houthis, they deserve that. How is that critical to the United States? I've said this before, and I got some pushback from them. I said the Houthis had not attacked any U.S. cargo ships. And then people are like, well, they attacked U.S. military ships. And it's like, yeah, after we moved those military ships into that area. Like, we started threatening them with our military ships, and then they started shooting missiles that were allegedly fired at our ships. But if you look at the wording of the press releases, you'll see that they fired missiles or interceptors in self-defense. But it doesn't necessarily say self-defense of the Navy ships, because you see in each of those groupings there were cargo ships that seemed to be under attack. So if a cargo ship was under attack from another country and the United States Navy ship came in and entered into that zone where that ship was, it could be perceived that those missiles were coming at the ship. But the point is like, why is this the United States' problem in the first place? I mean, I get we don't like countries around the world doing that kind of stuff, but where's the UN? Echoing silence, right? The UN was just like, yeah, we're not going to do anything about that. Why is the United States like, well, then fine, we will do everything for everyone out there. We'll do all the hard work. We're going to send all of our Navy ships there. And, you know, we have these allies with us, 10 allies with us, and I went through this before of like how many ships each of these countries had contributed, and it's like 2 countries contributed 1 ship each, and then like 5 countries gave us some staff officers. That's right, they sent some personnel to help push papers around. And it's just like, and then the United States is like 12 ships, 12 major combat ships in the area. And it's just like, why is it always the United States? We're sticking our nose in everyone's business around the world. We're provoking and picking fights with everybody all around the world. Is it any wonder that World War III is right on our doorstep? I mean, China is not going to invade the United States. China has no desire to invade the United States. I know that may surprise a bunch of you. Russia has no desire to invade the United States. It has no intention of ever invading the United States. So where are these existential threats that we keep getting told about, that we have to prepare for World War III? Oh, well, they're going to attack our ally. Friends, if we're doing stuff for them and those guys are never going to do anything for us, are they really an ally, or are they really just part of our empire? Let's truly be honest. We have the U.S. military defending every country except for the United States. We are literally being invaded right now, and our U.S. military is doing what? Nothing. Nothing. We spend over $1 trillion a year on defense, and we can't stop a single person at the southern border. Can't do it. We have to bus them to New York, or bus. I don't get free bus rides, and I'm an American citizen. What's up with this? I don't get paid to take free rides across Mexico. I'm a U.S. citizen. The rage out there is building. And I'm defining between anger, which is being upset but not doing anything about it, and rage, which where people are crossing the line saying, I'm done with this, I'm going to take action. I'm going to start protesting. I'm going to start speaking out. I'm going to start doing something about it, not just being upset. The world is changing, and as people start to flip over to action, you're going to see a dramatic change. All that bottled up upsetness is going to spill over in a way that could never be anticipated. Hopefully in productive ways. Hopefully it leads us to a brighter future, but history tells us that it often leads to a spiral of violence and decay. We'll Only time will tell. We'll have to see. But hopefully you, I, and all of us can be lights in the darkness, leading to a brighter future, not a darker, dimmer future. But it's going to take the good people standing up, taking legitimate, wise, measured actions, and doing what we can to control the crazies in our midst. All right, friends, thanks so much for watching. If you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up here. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report.